fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery with your hosts, Eric Shapiro, David North Martino, John Copenhaver, and Al Warren on 106.5 FM Los Angeles,
102.3 FM Riverside,
and 105.0 AM Palm Springs.
Oh, welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren. Mr. Dave Martino. You see, you were pausing. You weren't sure what it was going to be, Rose or little Palula or whatever that was.
Yeah, what name will it be today?
Dollarama Dave.
Dollarama Dave. That's right.
Yeah, he's on speed dial.
The Dollar Tree.
Yeah, he's on speed dial, and they call him every time they get movies in that are really bad, so he can run in there and spend $1 on a
That's
whole
right.
bad one. Like even the dollar store can't get rid of it. They have to call Dave.
Yeah, they call me, and sometimes they have digital too.
Oh my God!
For the $1.25,
wow.
DVD, Blu-ray, and digital.
Geez, they must be really sad movies. Not even worth $1.
No.
Things are looking up. How many thousands of those do you have now?
I have hundreds. But
hundreds.
I have in the hundreds, but I know collectors who are in the thousands.
Well,
I haven't gone over the deep end yet.
That's only because your wife won't let you.
No, it's true.
And when you say collector, I'm sorry, I'm going to burst in. It's just somebody who's collecting movies from the Dollar Tree or movies in general?
Movies in general. Physical media.
I didn't know if there was like a subsect of collectors that are like, I'm strictly a Dollar Tree.
Well, they might be.
Dave would be one of them.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
some decent stuff.
Yeah, well, you can get things anywhere, right? I mean, Dollarama, Dollar Tree.
You never know.
Walmart must be a big day on the weekend for you.
So a lot of those stores aren't carrying, much for physical media anymore. You have to get it online or from boutiques.
You see, Jennifer, what it is there's people like Dave, they're into the, as they call it, physical medium.
I will say I owned a comic book store for a while, so I understand the collector mentality. And I have a friend who's a big horror collector, but he is absolutely obsessed with collecting VHS.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, that's his gig.
There are people who still, especially movies that haven't made it to disc or streaming.
Yeah, because they're that bad.
Yeah.
Well, and because they're there, you have to have them because...
Yeah.
And yet, it was weeks ago when Dave ran to the Dollarama to get the Tonya Harding movie for $1.
Yeah.
And he still hasn't watched it.
No.
But that's a great movie.
It's on the list. I'm going to watch it.
Well, there you go. It's on the list. Are you scheduled to watch all these?
I watched Bad Moms last night.
That's not something to brag about on the radio, Dave.
I was going to say,
He was so proud.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy. I hate to break it to him. Anyway.
I mean, Al makes fun of me when I watch Roadhouse. So this time was Bad Moms.
Well.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. See, I'm just trying to even things out a bit.
I mean, I won't judge you. I love a lot of garbagey TV and movies and stuff. Like, I have seen Pretty Little Liars in its entirety 4 times.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
What?
So, yeah, like, I won't really judge the Bad Moms thing that much, but a little bit.
For me, I'm not judging. I mean, hey, you like what you like. I watch a lot of really bad stuff, too. But I'm talking about running out and buying it. That's what I'm talking about. Not about, because why do you have to own it? Because even when you watch Bad Moms, or let's say the Tonya movie and stuff like that, that's it then. It'll go back in its case, and it's something else for you have to dust every month whenever you clean it.
But here's the thing. It's the same thing with books, though. Like, so.
It's true.
I just like to look at my bookshelf. Sometimes it gives me such calming vibes. It's like, I own these things.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will buy it like $1 on like a Kindle, like the ebook, and then I'll buy the physical copy because, you just never know if you are going to want to leaf through it, underline important passages.
That's right. Well, you want it on the shelf.
I know, my husband's always like, wait, you have this on audio, ebook, and a hardcover? Like, how much did you spend just to have, like, 3 versions of the same book?
Everyone wants Jennifer as a fan because she's going to buy all of your media.
I know. People are like, oh, didn't you also get a free copy from the publisher? And I'm like, yeah.
It's not the same.
I know, it's not the same. It has like a slightly different cover.
Yeah. You are the grand dame of horror, right? You are the most beautiful horror writer going. You're famous. Everyone loves you. You're on top of the world.
Yes.
It's like royalty in horror.
Thank you.
Right?
That was lovely to say.
And Gordon. I mean, what more could you ask for, right? Is there another woman in horror even close?
Oh, no, there's plenty. There's plenty of people.
Who?
Oh, I'm just going to start naming, like, every female horror writer. Catriona Ward, Sina Palaio. Honestly, everybody. Yeah, the genre is blossoming with amazing female horror writers these days. Yeah, I love it when women start writing about freaky things. Because I grew up, on strictly Stephen King, Dean Koontz, and Clive Barker. Like, there weren't female horror writers that I could go to my local bookstore and, like, see them, or their books weren't on, like, the spinner rack at the grocery store and the little mass market paperbacks that I used to obsess about. Except for, like, V.C. Andrews, but even V.C. Andrews was being ghostwritten by a man, so.
What's different about a woman horror writer to you? Is it the approach? Is there something more sensitive about a female horror writer?
Not necessarily, but I do think for women, there are certain things that are more horrifying to us than, like, a man. Like, so, and I'm generalizing here, but so sometimes I dabble in a little bit of, like, body horror poetry, which I love to do. And I tend to write about, like, gross medical things that would normally only happen to a woman. Yeah, it's a niche subject.
The whole horror community, do you think it's something that's booming at this time?
I do think it's booming. And, I've talked to my agent, I've talked to other authors, and everyone just keeps saying, horror is having a moment right now. It's having a moment. But it does seem to keep building and building. So I'm hoping, as a genre, it's getting a little bit more respected. I get far fewer people saying to me, oh, I don't read horror these days. When I first started writing, they were just like, why are you writing horror? Like, ew. Write a romance.
Yeah.
Like, even my mom, like, she's always just like, you should just write a nice book that people will want to read. I'm like, well, they want to read my not nice books. Some of them do.
Do you think that's still a thing in general? People in public kind of go, well, females shouldn't write horror or gross things or murder or things like that.
Yeah, I don't see it very often. I see it a little bit with people I personally know who can't still wrap their brain around the fact that I write horror or I write crime and murder books and I like these disgusting things, because the people in my real life know me as, I'm a ballroom dance instructor. I love the foxtrot. I have a cute little dog. I wear dresses all the time in bright colors. And then they read my work and they're just like, oh, something must have happened to her.
Yeah, who hurt you?
Who hurt you like this?
I don't sort of, because to me, a boy and a girl are the same. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see any difference, so I don't know why a woman couldn't write anything that a man could write in any type.
Exactly.
Horror, crime, fiction, anything.
Right.
It's just.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
It's your mind and your heart. It's not about your sex. So in general, I don't actually understand that, because I still hear a lot of people say things like that. Or even when I just did like 4 different book signings here early in August, late July, and I still have people coming up and going, and it's funny because they'll say, oh, I could never read this type of book.
Yeah.
Oh, why? Oh,
why?
It's so awful. Okay.
Okay, no, so don't read it.
Well, I just want to say next.
Yeah. I know. There's nothing weirder than being at like a convention or a show or even like at a book signing at a bookstore and people come up to you and literally just tell you like, oh, so this is like dark and scary. Yikes. I hate books like that. Or like, I would never read this. And I'm like, okay, thank you. Do people actually read these books? Do you actually make money? Like, I'm like, you wouldn't just like walk up to a random person, like a lawyer, and be like, do you actually make money doing this? Like,
Yeah.
do people actually want your advice?
Yeah, go to their job and tell them what to do with their job.
Yeah, go to the Dollar Tree and say, do people actually buy these?
Buy these movies? Really?
Or do they just use them as coasters? Are they using them for a craft
People
project?
won't actually watch this, do they? Do they? Oh my God.
Nobody watches Bat Moms.
Well, somebody
No.
must, right? I don't know.
Sorry, Dave.
I think it's one of those things that he just buys them. They're still in the wrapper. They'll be there in 10 years, still in the wrapper. The cat will be sitting on top.
They depreciate in value if you open them.
Yeah, that's right. They're not the original.
They'll go down to like 75 cents.
So they're like precious.
Yeah, I could see that.
Golem.
Yeah, he just lays in the basement with all these.
Oh, of course it's the
course, you
basement.
Of the House of Mystery.
We're starting to form a new horror book here. You see, it's about
Yeah.
Dollarama Dave in the basement with his deals.
Oh my God. With his deals.
And he lays there and obsesses. He's just like Silence of the Lamb, right? Someone comes to the door. You just like it when he opens the door. Do you want to
Keeps
come
the
in?
wrapper on or it gets the hose.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, there you go.
Something
See,
like that.
Make a story.
Yeah.
Well, and that brings it up.
I'm writing it down right now.
By all
Hold on.
means.
Got to do a quick outline.
This could work. Actually, so with today's world, what makes a good book to you? Because there's been so much horror from Frankenstein years ago to Anne Rice to now. What is a good horror to you? How do you explain what a good horror is?
Oh, and I think that's going to be subjective for everybody. Right. For me, I don't know. It's hard to say because I read so much horror and I read so much crime fiction. I just really like the unexpected. And I also really, the past year or so, I've been really, really reading a lot of queer horror and writers that up until a few years ago didn't really have a seat at the table. They weren't being published as much. So
queer horror.
Yeah, like
Ooh,
to me.
Ick.
You would hate that.
Ooh.
You're like, that sounds scary and gay. And I'm like, that's me.
They don't know that.
Now, do you consider your horror? Do you consider it more on the extreme level, or do you do more quiet?
No, definitely more quiet. Definitely more quiet. I used to call myself just like a gothic horror author, and then other people would call me literary horror. What I like to write, whether it's a story or a novel, I like to write that slow, simmering unease, where you don't know if the characters are being truly haunted or if maybe they're having a really intense nervous breakdown. Is it schizophrenia or is it a ghost?
Well, that's very popular.
But when I dabble in, yes, it is. And I love it. And I've always loved it. So, yeah. But yeah, I'm kind of a baby when it comes to, violence. Not seeing it on a movie or reading it in a book, but me physically writing it. I'm kind of a baby, so my horror tends to be a little bit more subdued, but then, aspects of some body horror kind of go in there too. So.
So more of the mental suspense of the issue and stuff. So what is the Japanese box?
So the Japanese box is a collection of several stories and a poem that, the story itself, the Japanese box, kind of the flagship story, started actually as a personal essay about a night that when I was a little kid, that my dad showed me all of the stuff that he brought home from the Korean War. And he had this Japanese box that he got when he was on leave in Japan. And he was like, someday I'll give this to you. So I started writing this essay about my dad and about me and about, what it was like to grow up with, a mom with mental illness and a father with really incredible PTSD. And then I realized it was so personal that scared me so much that I was like, I have to add a ghost to this. I have to add something that makes it not real as my way of like releasing this information out into the world. So that story, which started as a personal essay, ended up turning into like a slow, simmering unease about a girl being haunted by her dead twin.
Oh, so well, what draws you to put so much person in it, like so much of your own feeling?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of the past few years taking a lot of grief writing courses and memoir courses, and I taught a course on writing about generational trauma. And I think because I've done so much of my own like personal self-discovery, I've realized how unique every single person in the world is. I mean, I know that sounds stupid to say, but like only I can write the horror or the work that I'm writing. So the more of me that goes in it, the more I can guarantee that nobody's read something like that before, because nobody has had my experiences. And maybe I'm lazy and I know my own story, so it's easy to keep telling it.
But how do you let go of that?
It's easier than research.
Yeah, how can you let go of that? How do you it's not like you're just doing the essay for yourself and you've got it and you work through the feelings and by writing it. You actually put it out for anybody in the world to read.
Yeah, that's the scary part. So honestly, the Japanese Box and Other Stories was the first book that I released that I was absolutely petrified for it to be out in the universe, because I kept thinking, like, if somebody hates this is the closest to me as a person that I've done for public consumption. So I'm like, if somebody hates it, that means they hate me. And then I just said, I just like took a swan dive and was like, fine, go for it. Release it into the world. It helped having a publisher who really was behind the project and believed in it. And then it helped having people I really love and respect read it early and blurbed it. And so it made me less scared to put it out there in the universe.
Right. Well, you've gone into your past consciously, but have you ever been surprised by anything that you've written that has come out unconsciously, maybe after you've read the first draft?
Yeah, I definitely have. And I know I've used similar, we'll say like metaphor in certain stories. And it wasn't until like later on I was like looking back and going, oh, that's like a common theme that I'm working with, right. And working through. And honestly, sometimes it's happened like when I'm mid-interview, like about a book, and an interviewer asks like a really important question because they read the book and they're like, did you do this consciously? And I'm like, holy crap, no, I didn't, but that makes me seem much smarter than I thought I was. Thank you.
That's when you pretend you know what they're talking about.
Yes. I'm like, oh, yeah, that was exactly what I wanted it to be.
In fact, I wrote that for you.
You're right. I am a genius.
I wrote it just for you to ask.
Yeah.
Boy. Well, so how does something like this, when you put this together and you put it out there and it's finished now and you look back, how does that change you?
I mean, I think any time, and this goes for any kind of artist or creative type, when you put the work out there, you are letting, it's an act of trust. Like you trust that it will be fine. So I really think, every project, you start to trust yourself more, you trust your fans more. So the relationship is growing, even if it's like you just with like with the public in general. Like I have to believe in myself, and I believe in myself more every time.
Hmm. Well, and if it fails, you could always, it'll be at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah, and then Dave can buy it for $1, or maybe $1.25 if it comes with comes with the ebook.
Oh, I'll be right there.
It comes with the ebook. It comes with it's the paperback, it's the hardcover, it's the ebook, and the audiobook for $1.25.
Oh boy, he'll get 6.
I'm there.
One for each room.
Yeah. This one doesn't just have to live in the basement.
This is the bathroom copy.
I was just going to say, this one goes in the bathroom.
The best place to read.
No, I put all my books in bathrooms. That's all I do.
Yeah.
That's your
my
marketing strategy.
You know what? It's not doing too bad for me.
It's the quietest room in the house.
People laugh, but you know what? Everybody's house I go to, I just leave them in the bathroom. I carry them with me.
Do you put them in like bathrooms at like bus stations?
Everywhere. Bus stations, shopping malls, restaurants, McDonald's. Even if I don't eat there, I go in and drop it off. Yeah.
No,
Doctor's offices.
This is a grassroots marketing.
And you know, it's not doing too bad. You know, my numbers are okay. Have you ever started a story like this, or a story and it kind of like when you how is this when you get a beginning of a story and you're going to write about it and you start putting it down on paper, you have some idea of where it's going to go or what you want to say to people or kind of what the story is, kind of a basic premise. But by the time you finish that, has it ever been completely different?
Yeah, my book, Pretty Ugly, which I think I was on your show talking about it a couple years ago, I went into writing Pretty Ugly thinking it was going to be a rom-com about the end of the world where people's like flesh was rotting off their body because of a terrible disease. And for some reason I thought that was going to be really funny. This was before COVID. So I thought, hilarious. A global pandemic that's killing everybody, but these two wacky kids are going to fall in love. And as I was writing it, it definitely changed completely into this like really kind of beautiful story about healing childhood trauma. And it still took place at the end of the world where people's bodies were rotting off. But it did lack the comedy of the rom-com that I thought I was going to be writing.
Yeah. And
my husband just kept saying, like, I thought this was supposed to be funny when he was, like, reading my early drafts. And I'm like, don't you think it's kind of funny? And he's like, no. No. It's actually really sad and kind of disgusting. He's like, I love it, but he's like, it's just not the book that you pitched to me. When I was just like, here, read my rom-com.
Yeah.
Because I'm a kind of a pantser, so going into something, it can easily change. It can very easily change. Yeah. Like I'm working on a project right now that I can say this because doesn't resemble this at all anymore. I wanted to do like a female American Psycho, but set in the ballroom dance world. And I can tell you that it is not that at all anymore. It still takes place in the ballroom dance world, and there are murders, but it is not about a female psychopath. Mainly because my agent was like, do not make your main character a psychopath. Do not make her a murderer. And I'm like, what if she just murdered a couple people? She's like, please don't. Please don't do that. I want her to be likable. I'm like, she's pretty likable, even as a killer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, you can always have her boyfriend work at the Dollar Tree, and he's killing people every time someone comes in and buys something. You know, buys it.
If they don't take his movie recommendations, he's
that's
like,
right. He goes after them.
Kills them out back by the
That's
dumpster.
Right. Oh, terrible. Do you ever put a purpose or some sort of meaning in your books?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think because so much of me is in the books, I can't say no. There's no purpose or meaning in the books at all. I do write a lot about mental illness and struggling with reality and past trauma and healing from that, or trying to heal from that, but you know, kind of not being able to because it's a horror novel. So obviously wackiness ensues. But yeah, I do tend to write about like grief, trauma, mental illness, ghosts, drownings.
So the fun stuff.
Yeah. All the fun stuff, alcoholism. You know, people are just like, why do you write about these things? I'm like, have you met my family? Like, almost all of my female relatives are schizophrenic. Like, hello? It's got to come out somewhere. I can't afford therapy.
We were just talking about stories change, you know, how your stories change. And I was just wondering, what do you think drives that change? Is it the characters?
Oh, it is the characters. It is the characters. There's, you know, I remember when I was writing my very first book, my debut novel, Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, I was typing away, and then my main character, Adam, made a choice. I can't say it because it's a spoiler. He makes a choice, and he made the wrong choice. I mean, the right choice for the book, but it wasn't at all what I thought was going to come out of my fingers as I was typing. And the second I typed it, I screamed. I was like, no! And my husband ran in, and he thought I saw a mouse or something. And he was just like, what's going on? And I was like, Adam just blah, 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 blah. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, and he shouldn't have. And he's like, well, just delete it. And I'm like, I can't now. It's on the page. It happened. He made that choice. He made the wrong choice. I'm like, now nothing's going to go well for him.
So are these characters, how do you experience them?
Remember when I said all my relatives were schizophrenic? No. So I went to school. This is a long-winded answer. I went to school for theater. That's what I went to college for. So I did a lot of character development for every character I played, whether it was a scene or an entire play or anything. So I always start there. Like I'll usually have a rough idea of I hate to use the word plot because it's not even that sometimes, but like an idea, a concept. And then I just try to figure out who's there, like who are my players. And then I just spend time in my head figuring out everything out about them. And I always start with what are their 5 core memories of their life so far? Like if they were dying, what are the 5 things that would flash in front of their eyes before they died? What are the things that shaped them? And I start there, and then sometimes the story just starts working itself out from there. When you figure out what is the most important thing to a person, what is the most heartbreaking thing that ever happened to them, when were they the most scared, what is the worst thing they think they've done in their life. And then, if it's going well, the book starts writing itself. And if it's not going well, then I haven't figured out really who they are yet. Because once I know them, it's easier to figure out what they would do.
Do you hear your characters? I'm just trying to find out if you're hearing voices.
I'm not hearing voices. But I do. But at night before I go to bed, I will tell myself the story of their lives, or even the story of the book, or the story in my head over and over again until I fall asleep. And when I get to a point where I don't know what happens, I go right back to the beginning and I start again. Tell myself everything I know. And eventually I get past that point where I don't know what's going to happen and the story just happens. So it's almost like I don't hear them per se, but I do see them like a movie in my head. And then I have to figure out, how to describe what I'm seeing.
Does that happen? Does that happen to you when you're driving, or?
No.
Okay. Just curious. I would stay off the roads in that part of the world.
Yeah. I was gonna say. Luckily I work at home most of the time.
At the end of the day, when you do a book and you put it out there, what's the most important thing for you to happen?
Honestly, it's hearing back from readers about their experience, especially if it's positive. If you have a negative experience with my books, please don't personally email me and tell me. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll just give Dave's email address. That's what I do.
That's what Al does.
Yeah. But no, so for the Japanese box, which just came out August 1st, I was really thrilled. I have some fans that who are just so supportive and so incredible, and they've reached out to me with their experience reading it, how much they loved it, and I'm like, oh, please leave a review on Amazon. I can't copy and paste your private email into the. But yeah, just connecting with your readers on an emotional level, and not just oh, I loved it, it scared me, because that's all well and good. I want to hear that too, but when I hear from, even if it's just one person, that they tell me what the work meant to them, and how it moved them, then that's what I want.
Must be exciting. I was going to say Josh Mellman wrote a spiel for you, right? And I had to sleep with him for him to do one for me.
I will say the day I love Josh. We're friends, and when I said, hey, will you read my book, and if you don't hate it, could you blurb it? He was like, yeah, I'll definitely do that. And then I didn't hear back from him for a while, and I'm like, oh, he read it and he hated it, and he's too embarrassed to mention it to me.
Put it in his bathroom.
I know, he put it in his bathroom. He put it in the cat's litter box. But no, and then one day he texted me and he was just like, "Oh, I'm about to start reading your book right now." And I was like, I'm going to throw up. I was so nervous. I was so nervous because I'm just like, what if he hates it? He's one of my favorite authors in the world. Why did I give it to him? He's going to know I'm terrible and stupid and crazy. And then as he was reading it, he was like messaging me while he was reading it, his favorite lines. I love this part, blah, 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 blah. So like that entire day, it was just like such an emotional roller coaster for me because I was just like, he's going to hate it. And I'm like, holy crap, he doesn't hate it. And he said in a message to me, and I'll never forget it, it like changed my life. He said, "This book makes me want to be a better writer."
Wow.
And I'm like, well, you're like the best writer I know, so that's crazy. Yeah, so he was very generous and lovely, and wow. Yeah, he gave me a really spectacular blurb. And then again in our messages, he's like, blurbs are so weird. He's like, what I really just want to say in all caps is, I effing loved this book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, you can say that.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can say that.
So he thought he was sending it to Stephen King, that's all.
Yeah, he was just like, oh, wait. Oh, no.
Wrong person. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I thought this was
not meant for you.
Whoop, sorry. Never mind.
Yeah. Never mind. What I wanted to say to you was, great effort.
Yeah, great effort. Keep up the good work.
Keep up the good work.
Well, that's good. But I think I'd be happy with that. I mean, he's on top of the world right now in horror. And do you ever think of your stuff as do you ever want any of your work to become like a movie or something on Netflix or some streaming service? You ever come across that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do want that. Especially, honestly, like my debut novel, Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, I just always think, because it's 3 characters, and most of it takes place like in an old house. And I was just like, it would make such a great independent film, because you don't need a huge cast, you don't need a big budget. It's very claustrophobic and atmospheric at the same time. So I always picture that book as a movie, because I think, it would be the east to film because it doesn't involve people's body parts rotting off their so we wouldn't need a makeup artist.
Yeah, smell-o-rama, scratch and sniff on.
Oh my god. Scratch and sniff. So this is now the second time scratch and sniff has come up in my life in less than a week. So now I feel like I have to be on the lookout for the third time. On my podcast, I said I wanted to do a scratch and sniff episode where we would like mail out scratch and sniff stickers to our loyal viewers and be like, now it's time. We're drinking coffee. You know what to do. Scratch and sniff. And my co-host was like, that is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Please don't bring that up again.
I don't know.
But you just said scratch and sniff, and now I'm thinking maybe that's a sign.
I like it. I don't know. Well, you see, I do a lot I'm in the old movie era right now and old TV shows because I'm writing stuff in the 60s. So that's all I'm watching is 1950s and 60s horror, noir, science fiction.
I love it.
That's all that's on my TV, and game shows. That's all that I do 24/7. I know people think I'm weird. Well, I am, but but the thing is, it's so important to get into the era of what you're writing about, what's important, the jokes. Because every time they say and do something or mention a name and I don't know it, I've got to find out who it is. Why do they all laugh about this person? What's the joke? What's going on? Because that's what you incorporate into to make it, it's real. It's that time. It's important and stuff like that. But they were trying that for a while in the 50s or 60s. I'm not sure which now, where they were doing the smell-o-rama. I
remember, so I used to be completely obsessed with, so when I was a kid, Nick at Night, Nickelodeon, after like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. at night, all they did was show like old TV shows from the 50s and 60s. And even as a child, I was a total insomniac, so I would just like stay up and be like, I'm watching like Car 54, where are you? And, just like really random bad shows. I'm like, It's not all Bewitched and I Dream
No.
a Genie. There were some clunkers
Oh, yeah.
out there, but I loved them. So I think that's probably what like shaped my like absolute love of like the 50s and 60s aesthetic. It's how I dress, like it's just I love it.
They knew how to display something, how to get an effect. You know, they knew how to do it with a lot less, you know, of the special effects that we have now or computerized. They were able to create an emotion with just a look, a feel, an angle.
Yeah, with lighting, with shadows. Yeah. Oh, like now I'm just like, I want to rewatch my favorite movie, Laura.
But it's true. But so that's important to me. And so when you are putting together a scene in one of your books, how is it that you make it become real?
Again, I start with the emotion of the characters. And sometimes I try to find music or a song that embodies what they're feeling. Like, again, like, so in my brain, it's like, if this were a movie and there was no dialogue, just watching people go through their day-to-day lives, no dialogue, what would that soundtrack be? And I figure out that song, and then I'll play that song over and over again in my head. And I watch my characters in my head doing the things that happen in between the scenes of the book. Like, just like when it's not the plot, when it's how they get ready for work, how they walk down the street. And then I just try to ride that scene, that not scene, that's them walking to work, them walking down the street, them going to the store, into whatever's happening, like, in the book itself. And to me, that makes it feel very real for me. And I think, again, this comes back to, like, I went to school for theater. The person who was the head of our program would, you know, before class some days, he would just sit in his office and he would, like, watch everybody get out of their car and walk into the building. And he would talk about how we as people are most interesting when nobody knows, like, when we don't know we're being watched. So he would kind of shape our class that day based on what he saw of our mood, our body language as we were just walking to the building. So I guess that's what makes my characters and my scenes feel real for me, is I think about what they're doing right before the scene, the things that are supposedly not important.
He was probably a creep and he was touching himself while he was watching.
No, he was lovely. I know. Every time I like say that story, people are like, "That is so weird." And I'm like,
Norman Bates.
I'm like, no, he was actually very lovely. Yeah, and he was in his office with like his mother, who he had married. And then he was like, "Mother, look how interesting my students are. Mother, look at them. Look at them, Mother." And then he would hold her up to the window. "Oh, look at Jennifer walking from her car. It looks like she had a bad day at the bookstore.
She looks like a horror.
She looks like a whore today.
I could see.
Why is her lipstick smeared? What was she doing right before she got here?"
Mother, stop it.
Stop it. Stop it, Mother. She's a nice girl. That's when off the rails
What have you
quick.
done? What have you done?
What have you done, Mother?
I can see it now. It's taken off. This is a whole new series going on.
Yeah, I'm not going to write the Dollar Store Dave story anymore. I'm going to write this one.
Well, I mean, I would do the Dollar Store Dave one anyway, just in case.
Maybe combine the two.
Have it as the opening act.
Somehow.
I mean, you know, you got to have Dollar Store Dave. He sits in his car, his old Pinto, beat up Pinto outside the parking.
And the back seat is filled with DVDs.
Yeah. And he's watching people go in and out of the store. Oh.
And he's like, "Oh, she reminds me of that scene in Hello, Mary Lou Prom Night 2. And then he sifts through the back seat and he pulls out like the DVD copy, still wrapped in plastic, of course.
Yeah.
And he rips it open. He's like, "I'm going to watch you tonight."
He rips it open with his teeth and then he starts to breathe heavy like Mel Gibson.
Get an old portable DVD player in the car.
Yeah. In the car. "I have to watch you right now.
I could see it.
I need it
That would be
now."
really good. I think this is turning into something really, you know.
It's
This could be real.
This could be a special. Now write that down and send it to Josh.
Yeah. Josh, I have this great idea.
All of a sudden everything's blocked.
Yeah. Like, that's weird. That's weird. We're not friends anymore on Facebook.
I've been blocked, deleted and blocked.
we
Yeah,
were.
I don't know what's going on. So where do you see yourself going? You're not going to write romantic comedies, obviously. So how far do you want to go with horror, or do you want to go into another area?
I mean, so I feel like I have horror stories still inside of me that I want to tell. I have several like crime stories, like crime adjacent. You know, I jokingly called it to somebody, a friend of mine. I was like, it's like I kind of want to write these book club books, but instead of it being like wine moms just drinking, it's like wine moms drinking, but then there's a murder, and then there's this, or then there's like a serial killer, and they're like, that's not really a book club book if you keep adding these gross things to it. So yeah, I think, my wheelhouse is always going to tend to be darker. So horror, crime, and even if I dabbled in memoir, I still, like the personal essays I write have a lot of like horror imagery in them. So they still fit in the horror place, horror universe.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And that universe is the like, oh, what happened to you as a child? Who hurt you? Your parents should have hugged you more.
What do you want people to get out of your writing?
That's such a great question. And I'm like, I love that like we have this fun conversation, we're laughing and we're joking, and then you ask these like really
questions. It's the best way.
So what
to
do
wake them up.
Yeah, where I'm like, oh no.
I do it on purpose.
No, you want me to be vulnerable. You're like Barbara Walters.
What type of a tree would you be?
I know. Oh God. So what do I want people to get out of my work? Because my work tends to be on the emotional side, I would like people to realize that they are not as alone as they probably think they are. That's my touchy-feely answer,
okay.
But it's
well,
true.
Who have you killed in your books or tortured from your real life?
Oh my gosh.
We won't tell anyone.
Oh, I will say, so I have a work in progress right now that like the one that I originally said was going to be American Psycho in the ballroom dance world. It still exists in the ballroom dance world, and I will say maybe some former employees at like the Fred Astaire I worked at for a while, a million years ago. Maybe some of them, maybe an ex of mine might die. Or somebody similar to them. But that being said, there's a character based on my husband, and I have done like really, I've made him not a nice person, and he was reading it and he's just like, really? Really? And I'm like, what? I had to make it not exactly you. He's like, but this scene was exactly how we met, and then all of a sudden I'm doing something creepy. I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah, we have your husband on the other line right now, so let's...
He's going to be like, yeah, I really wish you hadn't named me blah, blah, blah in that book. He knows nothing is off limits.
Well, that's the whole idea if you're married to a writer, Anything can happen,
Yeah.
So how does this world affect you when
Oh
you're
my
writing?
God.
I mean, because it seems to me the last, we can say almost 10 years, it's been getting more bizarre as it goes. And lots of weird things going on, and weird stories, and everything going on from politics to you name it. And with all of that wild stuff going on, do you think that affects your emotion to write, or do you think it makes it darker or lighter, or do you think,
for weirdly, so for me, I think it makes me darker, and it also makes what I'm searching out to read and like consume with my eyeballs, so like movies and TV shows, it's everything gets darker for me, because I don't know why, but I've always found things like true crime documentaries or true crime books to be very relaxing for me. It's how for many years, like since I was in high school, I dealt with a lot of anxiety. Like I would just go like, I'm just going to watch a murder documentary and I'm going to feel better because I know it's completely messed up and not healthy. But I think it's because like when I get really anxious, if I watch something or read something that's really dark and horrible, part of me goes, see, it's not that bad. Sure, the world is on fire, literally and figuratively. things are not going as great. There's a plague, there's all of these things, but at least there's not currently in my town a plague of vampires who are killing people every night. Or there's currently in my town, knock on wood, not a serial killer who snatches women on their way to their mailboxes that are at the end of their very long, dark driveway and does terrible things to them. So I always go to really dark things and it makes me feel better. So yeah, the world is really almost dystopian right now. So I think that is I think this might be why horror is having a moment, why the crime community is doing better, the crime writing community, they're doing better than they ever have. There's weirdly a need to see something worse than what you're actually seeing in your real life. It's not healthy, but I think it is what it is.
I was going to say, that sounds like fun. Let's go for ice cream. Let's go for murder.
Let's go for murder. I mean, ideal night would be go get some ice cream and then watch a murder documentary.
Well, there you go.
For
See,
me.
now, here's the clue. You could make...
And wear your 1950s dress and...
Well, I do anyway. But,
everything's fine.
but you should have blood red ice cream.
Oh,
Create some flavors of ice cream. Like the Gacy ice cream.
Oh my God, disgusting. That one's a birthday cake flavored, of course.
Of course. But, yeah.
Oh, disgusting. I'm getting I feel like I just got diabetes saying those words. Birthday cake flavored ice cream.
Oh, yeah. I tell you.
But, and the cherry on top would look like the clown nose.
Bonus clown with purchase. Yeah.
He watches you eat. He paints a picture of
Smiling,
you eating your ice
smiling,
cream.
Drooling. Oh, hello, little girl. Oh, this is sick. There've been a dollar round.
What's wrong with you, Alan?
Yes.
Anyway, so where do people find you? Or I know you're hidden out somewhere, and
Yeah, I live at they can't actually physically find me because nobody would even be able to see my driveway. Where I live in this crazy old.
You live in the
house.
old monster house, don't you?
I really do. I mean, it looks a lot like that. It's dark brown. It has a tower. It has, it really does.
See it getting cloudy and thunder and rain coming in, and Jennifer running to the window. Oh, look, it's going to be a beautiful day.
It's going to be a beautiful day today. And I do have a not haunted mannequin that I had set up in my writing tower for a while, total American, a total psycho. Norman Bates' mom, put her there in the corner. Because I wanted, the Amazon delivery drivers to pull up and just be like, what the hell is happening in the house? But then she started freaking me out. So, anyways, where you can find me online is the easiest place is my website, which is www.jenniferannegordon.com, and that's Anne with an E, like Anna Green Gables. That has links to all of my social media. I am not active on TikTok.
How come?
I was I just think I don't know. I think I would be bad at it. I would either take myself too seriously, or it would just turn into thousands of videos of me teaching people the Foxtrot Basic, and I don't think.
I think it would work
for my career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I really should, but I don't love social media that much. So every time I have to add another site, I'm oh no. I'm not active on whatever Twitter is now, but I am active on Facebook and Instagram, especially if you like pictures of dogs. That's mainly what my Instagram is.
You were going to say dolls.
Oh. There are some mannequin photos and some photos of I do own, for some reason, I bought a bunch of doll houses, and I thought, my spare time, I'm going to turn this into a haunted dollhouse. And now I just have a bunch of doll houses that are not haunted.
Oh, not yet.
Yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Give it time.
Well, there you go. Now, everyone, you got to get out and buy the Japanese box. It's the new Jennifer Ann Gordon book. And the reason is the poor girl. She needs you to go out and buy it, okay?
I need it. Please, please. Alms for the poor.
Yeah, she's getting in trouble here.
I'm like a little matchstick girl.
She's getting in trouble.
But instead it's books.
She wants to quit her job at the Dollarama so that she doesn't have to see Dave every day.
That's right.
He comes in sometimes 3 times a day.
Yes.
Sometimes. And I'm like, Dave, why do you now smell like milk and cheese? Where did you go for the last 2 hours? And he's like, I was just sitting in my car
in his Pinto.
eating some old Little Caesars pizza in the Pinto watching Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2 on my portable DVD player.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where the milk smell came from. That's just how I
But I
smell.
followed that girl home and... anyway.
Oh, poor Dave. Dave, you've been poor Dave, you've taken a lot of abuse. And I didn't know that's why you were on the show
exactly
today.
why I'm on.
But Alan messaged me earlier and he's like, oh, Dave is there to be abused. And I'm like, does he like it? And he said, oh. And I was like, all right, I'm super nice, so I don't like to do things like that, but
oh no. Yeah,
all right.
No, he's got his
everybody has their kinks.
No,
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, he's got his table out there and he's got his nipple clamps on. Oh, this is terrible. Anyway, well, we appreciate you being here.
Delete everything after everybody's got their kinks.
Well, thank you.
You're like, no, we're opening with that.
Opening, that's
Usually open with the hard nipples.
That's the cold open.
Yeah, anyway. Well, Jennifer Ann Gordon, thank you for being here.
Alan R. Warren, thank you for having me. Dollar Store Dave.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Pleasure.
You've been listening to the House of Mystery radio show. To find out more about our guests, hosts, or shows, go to www.houseofmystery.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.